Ireland at that time, you couldn't, if you'd finished school, you were finished. You couldn't go back, or you couldn't change your pathways and go on to something else.
Wow.
If you were lucky enough to get into school, you stayed at doing what, even if you didn't like it. Yeah, if you got in, you stayed doing what you were told to do, and that was your life.
Nice to be able to have some choices, huh?
It was nice to be able to get into a school, to
Yeah.
get into a college,
Yeah.
because in Ireland there was no way that I could have.
Right. Now, at some point, you found the Gaelic American Club. How did that happen?
Bob Sheehan, I came, and Bob Sheehan was going to a Hibernian meeting, and he said, "Hey, come on! So you can there's a bar there. You can hang out and meet locals." And so I'd say within 2 days after coming here,
Wow.
I was here. Yeah, because Bob wanted to introduce me to Irish Americans and to the Irish, that were here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was, yeah, it was lovely to hear the Irish accents,
Yes.
and to have people take interest in you. What are you doing? Where are you going? And give you advice.
What was your impression when you met? I mean, at home.
It was home from home, because when I came here, first of all, we never had spaghetti at home. We never had rice, nothing like that, we never had chips, to boiled potatoes, So when we came here, it was great to people that knew, that were into the culture and that knew at least about the whole thing, and the transition. And at that age, like I was, I'm 43 now, I was about 20 something. So at that, I was more than willing to try it out, and it was a cool place to be,
Yeah. Now, I know you're married.
Married, yeah.
And how did you meet Jen, your wife, Jennifer?
I'd say I was here 7 days. And I had no intention of meeting anyone, believe me, because I had a mission, and this was getting to school to become a nurse, and to the old Gaelic club, and she was sitting with her friends on inside, they had the bar, but then they had another area where they used to do the plays, I think.
Right, in the room there.
In the room
there,
in the post road in Fairfield, and she was there with a couple of friends, and I think I was sitting on my own, and some one of her friends says, "Oh, who's that guy?" And someone of them must say, "Hey, that's the new guy that came over from Ireland." So they said, "Oh, he's on his own. Does he want to come over?" So we were just got talking to the whole people, and that's when I first met her. And then it started in earnest, I'd say about 6 months after that, But we had been, we were in contact with the crowd.
Group, yeah, the crowd.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It was a nice
yeah,
young crowd that all
yeah,
got together.
yeah, exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, Jennifer Moran.
Jennifer Moran, yeah, that was, and let me tell you, I was delighted and lucky. Let me tell you, that was the luckiest thing. Coming to America was the first luckiest thing. That was the second. Or I would say vice versa, actually. I hope she doesn't see this.
And so, when were you married, you and Jennifer?
We were married in 91.
Okay. And now you have?
And I have 3 children. Yeah, 2 boys and a girl.
And their names?
Their names, Margaret is 11, Charlie is 10, and Mick is 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you got married. You lived in an apartment, I think, for a while.
We lived in an apartment first of all when we got married, and then Jen was expecting first baby, so then we moved to Milford. Stayed there for about 2-3 years, and then we bought a house in Monroe and moved there, and we're there for about 3 years, and then and we used to go back to Ireland then nearly every year to visit my parents. So yeah.
And then at some point, this is where the story gets really.
And this is, I had no intention of going. I remember my wife Jen says to me one time, "Would you ever go back to Ireland?" I said, "You nuts." I said, "Do you know how long it took me to get established here? We have it too good here. I'm never going to."
You graduated, meanwhile, from nursing school.
I had graduated from nursing school. I had worked in the field, had became a supervisor, went back to school, got more qualifications, and really liked it here. Really, was okay. Worked hard, but also had a good lifestyle here. Kids were happy. Everyone was happy. Wife said to me, "Would you ever think of coming back?" I said, "Not at all, you nuts, crazy, because to get established back there, you wouldn't, never." My father got very sick at one time, and I had to rush back because he didn't have long. We were told he didn't have long to live, so we all went back, and we were there, and it was. I decided. I kind of knew at that stage that hey, he had went downhill an awful lot, and I didn't know about it, and that I didn't know much about him. As a teenager, maybe, yeah, but not as an adult 1-to-1. And my kids didn't know of him. They knew of him, the grandpa, when they went over on holidays. But so then it was kind of at his bedside that I said, you know what, if he does live, I would like to try it out there, you know. And that's so. I said, you know, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. I said, you know, I just thought in my mind. And then that night, we went out, my wife and I went out for a drink. And so I says to her, I know the pub that it was in, and I says to her, hon, I have something to say to you, or something to ask you. And she, I have something to say to you too. I says, oh gee, what's this? So if we said it together, honestly, as God is my judge, she says, let's move to Ireland. And I says, what about, would we move over here for a while? So that's when the ball got rolling. Yeah.
That was a big decision.
It was a big decision, and we had a lot of sleepless nights about, you know, it took us a year then to get everything organised. Would the kids like it? Would my parents didn't really want us to move, because I said, hey, you know, you're married to an American. If you know, if she doesn't like it, things had changed totally in Ireland at that stage, and I was outside looking in, you know. But we said, you know, that we'd try it. So we sold lock, stock and barrel here, and moved back to Ireland. I did. The kids didn't have a word of Irish, and it's mandatory back there that you have to do Irish. So I bought back school books, and we worked in it. We worked on them for about 6 months, and at least they knew some stuff. They knew what they were getting into, you know. But as my son says, hey, they speak English. Why don't they speak English back there? He said. But so we moved over, and we rented a house for a year.
And now, when was that? Tell us when.
That we moved over in 3 years ago. July. It was the 4th of July we landed. Yeah.
Independence Day.
Independence. Yeah.
And thank God your father and mother.
Father then got on fine, and came out of hospital, and it took him a long time. It took him over a year to get back into his strength, you know, but he did, thanks be to God. And we thought that when we moved over there that it would be a lot cheaper than here, but with the economy over there, everything, the Celtic Tiger had started and roared its way through inflation or whatever it done, but prices were New York prices for property and all that kind of stuff. So we rented for a year, and the kids went to school, and the kids they settled in very well. Now the first day I remember that they cried going to school and says, hey, we don't want to go, you know, we don't know anyone, you know, but and we were worried, but like that, after they come back that first day, they were thrilled with themselves. You know, yeah. So it was a different education system that they had gone into. It was a different world, totally different, you know. Yeah, and they love it, thanks be to God. And my wife now is more Irish than they are. And
and you got a job, no problem?
Got a job. I had to. The way it worked out was that over there it's different. Over there, your permanent job. You can either be a permanent or not part-time, but it's not. They can just say in the morning, we don't need you. And permanent jobs are hard to come by. And I'm a nurse, and I flew over about a month before we flew over for good to interview. And I thought there's a nursing shortage here, so I was looking for bonuses, and I was looking for this and that. And they told me, hey, you're lucky to get an interview. There's no shortage over there in nurses. It's totally different scenery. So thanks be to God, I got a job, permanent job, and had to learn the trade all over again. We had one car, and my wife used to drive me to work. The kids used to have to get up at 6 in the morning, you know, and we'd all go in the car to work. And so little by little, we started to get our independence back, and to do things, you know. that became familiar to us. But we had a great time settling in, because we had downsized, and so we didn't have we had nothing to keep track of.
Right, you had
It was
lots of things in crates and the.
yeah, in crates, and even at that we had tag sales here, so we had a lot of stuff gone, and we simplified our life, and we took for the road basically, and did our own thing, and it was heaven on earth, and still is. Yeah, so they went fishing, and
then of course you went and bought a nice big piece of property and built.
we were lucky enough. My brother is a developer, so we were lucky enough that we'd actually the piece of property bought before we left this country.
Oh really?
Yeah, we did. Well, what happened was my brother called me. I was going to work, and he says, "Can you be in Ireland this evening?" So I says to him, "I said, you're nuts." I says, "I have to go to work first of all. They don't even know that I'm moving, and I have 3 kids going to school." And I says, "Flight, couldn't book a flight until tomorrow." I says, "I can't be there for a week." And he says, "Listen here, if you don't," he says, you'll lose a field, if you get it. So between the hot and the trotting, we went the next day. And when I landed, I said, "Where's the field?" And my brother says, "Well, it's not for sale. We have to convince the guy that he's selling it." So I says, "I have spent $1,500 on shipping people over here for 2 days, and you're telling me there's nothing for sale?" So luckily we did get it, and then we built a house on it, and then we just, I said I'd introduce the kids to what I grew up with, and we'd have chickens and ponies and emus and donkeys and goats and the whole lot on it. And it was my wife actually that wanted the goat.
Is she going to make goat cheese?
She wanted to make goat's cheese, and she wanted to milk the goat so we were self-efficient. I said what she wanted to. She had this dream of that she'd have a straw hat and a summer dress and run around the meadow. But the goat came, and she learned to milk the goat, and she makes cheese. And now she turned around to me one day and said that, "Hey, if I had known," she said, "half of the stuff that I'm doing now, when you asked me to marry you, instead of saying I do, I said she might have said I might." But thanks be to God, we're very happy there. Yeah, and they're near their grandparents.
Yeah, and that's very nice too, because Beth's parents had died before the
Yeah,
children were born, right?
exactly. Yeah, so it's important that they have that they're exposed to mature people, elderly people, and that they see what's going on. It's like the animals. Some of their animals have died or moved on or been killed. We raise our own pigs, we raise our own sheep. So so they're really into
They're
the
seeing that cycle
yeah.
that you saw.
Oh yeah, totally. And hands on. Yeah.
So if you look back at now, you said Margaret is 11?
Margaret's 11,
11.
yeah.
And compare 11 years old when you were 11 years old to 11 years old that she is now, both in Ireland. I mean, big difference, huh?
Totally. It's a different country. She's far more advanced. And we're far more into kids and what we think they need. My parents' time, it was kids were seen and not heard, and now at least you're more you're more in focus on what they want, what they should have, and that. Whereas our time, like, please, if you opened your mouth, you get a little whacked behind the ear, from either mother or father, So that way, that now has totally changed. Computers, TV, colour TV, like we had black and white TV until must have been 25 or 30, Yeah, like they go places, like we have to take them here, there, to hurling or that. We weren't taken anywhere. They go on holidays. We would go once every 2 years, I'd say. My mother would take us to the beach, but like that was it, And you'd be home by 5 because you had to milk the cows, So so it's a totally different lifestyle.
You were really, and the farm was your whole support, your whole family support. Everything
was centered. That was the
at
center of the
farm,
universe. If anything happened, everyone would suffer, in one way or the other.
If I remember correctly, didn't that farm, it turned into a very self-sustaining farm where it turned into a dairy that you...
It turned into, my parents decided then that they would bottle milk and deliver it to door to door in Limerick City, because we were only about 10 miles from it. So that was a lot extra more work. That was they opened up a dairy, and they sold milk and cream, and they so that was a lot of, we had to pasteurize it, deliver it in glass bottles, go to the customer every week and to each house, and hand them in a bill, get money, keep track of records, all that kind of stuff. So that required a whole other manpower, and so we used to deliver milk.
Just the basic family.
It was a basic family, and we used to have to, before we went to school, we delivered milk into each customer. And what a lot of people, it was glass bottles then.
Yeah.
So the housewife would use the milk and put out the glass bottle outside the door the night before, so that you'd pick it up in the morning. Well, there'd be a lot of little dogs around, and they'd pee into the glass bottle. So you'd be going to school, and there'd be a smell of pee off you.
Oh,
you know,
gosh,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
from this glass bottle outside the door, and not a lot of people did that, because we cut out the middleman, cut out the creamery, and we decided that we would do it all ourselves. You know, so it was an awful lot of extra work. Yeah.
Wow. And now, of course, the kids come back. Did they ever see the farm when it was working in that kind of a condition?
No, they didn't. No.
Since
They have seen the farm. They did see the farm with dairy cows on it, and they did see cows being calved, one or two cows being calved, that kind of thing. But they didn't. They haven't had the hands-on that we had.
Yeah.
You know, which is
And
good.
now the farm is completely different.
Farm. Then my parents then decided to retired, and my brother took it over. He had worked the farm and never left, so he got the farm, and then with Ireland has joined the EU a long time ago, but farmer, and all over Europe, farming is gone downhill because of subsidies are gone, that kind of thing. He decided to get out of cows, and to get out of this from the chains of milking cows twice a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. So he changed the whole thing over to a racing stable, and he developed it, and has a track on it, and I think it's for about 80 stables on it. And then he now rents it out to a horse trainer. So, and my parents live in the same house, but instead of looking out on cows, they now look out on a stable, which in a way is good, because they can't, and they're elderly now at this stage, they can't say, well, he should have done this because that's what we did, you know. It's a whole new thing. Yeah.
Whole new way of life.
Yeah. But they're still with the animals, so they're delighted.
And isn't that amazing? I mean, in your lifetime, having gone from no plumbing to now this absolutely gorgeous farm that's a horse farm that's very upscale. I've seen it.
It's wood. Yeah. It has came twofold, but you know, it had such a long way to come.
Yeah.
Ireland did, you know.
Yes.
So it basically just caught up with the rest of the world.
Right.
You know.
What are the biggest changes you see in Ireland now from when you were a kid, aside from those things that we've already discussed, the other changes?
I would say attitude. Attitude to the people, the people's attitude towards what they can do. The people, multiracial community, totally. My God, people now. Before you couldn't say what you had. If you had a house with 4 bedrooms, you would not say it to anyone, okay, because you were showing off.
Oh, okay.
You know, now you wouldn't. You know, it's just part. That's what you have. You know, people are far more now go-getters. They'll tell you what they can do, whereas before they'd focus on what they couldn't. Women now, husband or wives work. Okay, before 15 years ago, it would have been, hey, are they in financial trouble? Why is she working? Okay, it was frowned on to leave the wife raised the kids, looked after the kids. That and anything other than that was frowned upon. Divorce, separation, partner is used a lot more now than it ever was, you know, and it's an accepted term, and a respected term. Divorce would have been frowned upon 10 years ago. It's now just part of everyday talk, and it's like saying a day of the week. You know, divorce is not a big thing anymore. Family size has gone down, definitely. And